Very well. Right, thank you. So let's move together. I'll try and cover some brief aspects which we even covered in the last presentation. What is retirement and what are its implications to us? Some attitudes and the joys which are associated with retirement, which we need to be aware of. And some facts and today's challenges regarding retirement. I'll probably give you a brief definition of what retirement means. I mean, what retirement planning means. Financial assessment and sources of money to enable you to go through retirement life, and some financial misconceptions relating to retirement. Then I'll deal with the common topic, which is often associated with retirement, which is the pension payments or the payment phase of pension funds. And then I'll make some conclusions. So retirement is often understood to be a withdrawal or a retreat from one's position, occupation, or from active working life. Just put this off the screen, fine. And you want to rest after you have put some energy, some time into active working life. And this comes as a result of age. It could be because of a legal requirement or because you want to rest of your own. Probably you are doing your own business and you don't think you have continued energy to continue working. You just want to hand over to younger generations and find some rest. And therefore it is associated with advanced age. And currently in Kenya, civil servants generally retire at 60. Of course, we do have some exceptions like judges who retire at 70. People with disabilities, they retire at 65. But the question probably could be, if I'm self-employed, is there retirement age? That is your choice. That is, you make a choice when you want to exit and hand over to some other people to continue with the business that you have been running as a self-employed person. But whichever date you choose, that is your retirement date. And of course, once we have retired, we get this title, a retiree. Most people don't like it, but that's the reality. So some of the implications of formal retirement is that there is an end of your regular salary. So I think in some organizations and special government, they do give notices that you have so many months towards retirement, which means that from a particular date, there will not be a salary. And that is scaring enough to many people. People don't imagine that they can do without the salary which they look for or forward to every other month when they're working. So some other implications include change from routine work and even the environment under which you've been working, or even from the location where you've been working. Some people retire from the cities to rural areas. You also leave your colleagues in an office, you retire to a home where probably you'll be with your wife or children if they're still there. Of course, as I said earlier, your title changes to retired so-and-so, and you're separated from your routine friends at the workplace. You have a lot of time at your disposal, and the danger or aspects of loneliness do come in because your friends start declining in number. You don't get too many people going along with you in retirement. So some loneliness do come in. And of course, some physical challenges also start creeping in because we are aging. Our physical strength also starts waning. Does retirement affect your relationships, especially at home? Very interesting to think through about this, because there are cases where a number of people have found it difficult to fit at home because they've been used to being away for many years, because they wake up early, go to work, and come back in the evening. So very little time at home. But you see, if you had your spouse was not working, was at home all that time when you were working, so you affect the routine life of the person who has been at home all this time, because then you are now more available here and with much more demands of things which you want to be done to you. And that, in some cases that we have seen before, some relationships are affected, even at this advanced age, especially at home. So we need to think through and plan these things so that people don't start having difficulties at home when they're at 60. And that becomes very difficult. Some of the attitudes towards retirement include, it's a relegation to a low life. That's how some people feel. I've been a senior person, I've been working, but now I've been relegated to a low life. And one's loss of focus in life, becoming idle, broke, and worthless in society. Some of those attitudes do come with retired persons. A moment when you feel like society has rejected you. When we are working and we drive big cars to the village, we have all this respect, and people give us these big titles, so and so has come, but not so when we have retired. Society starts keeping a distance from you because they know you are no longer that special person we used to see previously. And it's a time when we beg, and when people shun us and as much as possible, because they think if they lend us money, we may never be able to pay it because they don't think we have any other source of income. So people tend to shun the retired persons. We are unengaged, and this may result into negative aspects of life, such as stress. A time when one can ruin herself or himself due to bad management of time, because what do you do with all this time? Because you have been busy working much of the day, and now you have much of the day doing nothing. What do you do with that time? Those who are not Christians will probably move into the risks of indulgence, like drinking, addictive games, and it doesn't work very well for them. They start misusing the time they have in retirement. So, but the aspect about joy in retirement is not gloomy, it's not always negative. You become your own boss if you've been employed with all these directives in the office, deadlines of submission of completed work to your boss. You now become your own boss. You can manage yourself, you can manage the things you want to do, the work you want to execute, and all that. You have knowledge and experience as a person, so which you must make use of in retirement. You can access your retirement savings because you have been saving in a pension fund. This is the time when you start now accessing it and converting it into a salary, if you may wish to call it, which is now available to you in retirement because the normal salary has been terminated. You can use your retirement savings, a portion of it, to start a business and use your experience and knowledge to run the business and continue being active in economic terms, and even employ somebody so that will keep you busy, that will manage your time, and you keep your brain engaged. You have more time at your disposal, which can be spent to fulfill your life. So it's not necessarily negative in retirement. There are some positive things which can be done to give you a vibrant and a normal life, even in old age. There are some facts which I want us to take note of as we think through about the retirement. Globally, the population of all people is increasing, which means there are more people above 60, and that number is increasing. In Europe, it's already a reality, and Western world, including many parts of Asia. In Africa, there are now clear statistics that people in old age are also increasing gradually. The number isn't as big as in the Western world, but it is increasing nonetheless, which means people are living longer. Is that positive or negative? Think through about it. You want to live for 110 years begging and crawling and so weak, carried in and out of your house? That's debatable. Of course, nobody wants to die, but the problem they have in the Western world is aging populations, where people are living for so many years and there are very few young people to work. Of course, that explains importation of labor from developing world to the Western world. And aging populations becomes very expensive as a social expenditure on parts of government. Government has to look for money and support these large people in old age. So those are some of the facts that which are being noted globally. Kenya's life expectancy at the age of 60 years is at the level of 17.44 years. That means that if you retire at 60, you start planning for a life of 17 years and above. So you can round it to 20 years. So which means you retire at 60, you are likely to live 80 plus and minus. Some people go on up to 100. The numbers may not be big, but this number of 17 years after 60 is also increasing gradually over the years. This was 2020 statistics, and it's an increase from 16.22 to 2015. So there's a change of about 7.4%. So the number of children per family is also decreasing, and that is a global trend, which means that traditional support systems, which our grandparents depended on, that's why they had more children, is also declining. Is breaking up, so you don't expect that your clan, your villagers will come to your support when you are old. Your children may not be interested in your problems because they will have their own problems to deal with in the modern complicated life. So African governments do not have enough money to provide for social security, what you call old age pensions, which are paid from taxes. I know we have these cash transfers of 2,000 shillings to our old people 65 and above, but you can imagine what that can do to your needs in old age. Government doesn't have enough money for affordable Medicare, housing, food, and travel vouchers if you have to move from one place to another, etc., as the Western world is able to do, at least currently. So your current income, when you are in employment, you need to find a way of moving with it into retirement. Even if it is 100%, you need close to 70 to 80% of it to move with it into retirement so that you're able to support your needs in retirement. So a lot will depend on your personal retirement planning for you to be able to sustain this kind of income in retirement. And that is critical to take note of because you may discover that there could be a lot more expenses which arise in retirement than they could when you are now actively employed. So today's challenges: increasing medical and long-term care costs. Those are things to worry everyone. The cost of Medicare. We have now these diseases which take long and very expensive to manage, and the cost of it is always increasing. Limited government and traditional support systems. We have a longer life expectancy, which means we are likely to outlive our savings if it wasn't enough or planned well during our active life. There's what you call higher cost of living currently, which means you may have limited surplus to save for later years. And that requires now clear planning, especially for young people. How do you control your spending currently so that you can be able to avail some money and put it aside for your later years? We do also have what we call limited knowledge on investments for maximum returns. Most people have no clue on how and what they need to do to invest and save money for later years. Now, what is the meaning of retirement planning, therefore? Some people have called it the process of identifying your wants and the needs, developing plans to achieve them, acting on those plans, and continually reviewing and revisiting them as you gain new knowledge and experience. That's why I said earlier that for this to be very useful to most of us, we needed young people to listen to this because it requires a period of time, quite a long time. We always tell young people, when you start getting a salary, start planning for your retirement immediately. So start the process of identifying what is life likely to be those many years down the line, what could be the things I need. You start putting money aside, which means basically doing your plans, developing your plans, and act on those plans, basically saving and putting money aside. Review whether you are saving enough as the years go by, and gain knowledge and experience on how you could continually improve on your plans towards retirement. So identify the retirement wants and needs, develop a plan, implement it, review the plan, and continually learn through experience. So you need to know the needs in retirement and how to finance them, because all those needs require money, and you need to know where will the money come from to finance these things, which are sometimes mandatory in retirement. So retirement issues, therefore, need to focus on the following. I mean, in our retirement planning, we need to focus on financial aspects. Do we have enough money? Are we managing our health? Because that also has a financial implication. Do we have satisfying relationships? We discussed this in our last presentation. How can I provide for my family? Now, you have noted our young people, even when they've started working these days, they're mature enough to move out of their home. They probably don't want to move out. And sometimes they continue depending on you even when you have retired. So you don't know what to do. You can't chase them away. They're your children. You have to continue to provide for them, even as you try and educate them and guide them to start managing their affairs with the money they are earning currently. There are also personal issues. Is my spiritual life okay? Are you happy or you are depressed? Know what you want in life. Manage time well. Does your work, your world work for you? Where you are in retirement, and is it working for you? Is it making it difficult for you? And do you feel satisfied, therefore? So retirement planning involves the deliberate accumulation of funds to cater for one's needs after they leave their employment. And this is because of old age. When you're looking at it from the financial aspect, it's about accumulation of funds which are targeted at some of the needs which you have also taken note of in your plan, so that you are not in want and in desperate life in retirement. So the reasons why we must save for retirement is that provide continuous funds in case of ill health or in the event of death. We need safety net upon loss of employment so that you continue living and supporting yourself financially. Prevent old age poverty. provide basic and reasonable income after working life. You need to have some income. Replace your pre-retirement income. You want to have an earning which is replacing your salary, basically. Avoid serious disruptions of living standards in retirement. Of course, if you have been living well during your active life, during our active life, we have probably these large homes, and probably if they're not yours, you have either rented or government has given it to you or your employer has given it to you. And so sometimes we live large when we are employed in active economic life. But you see, once you retire, you have to hand over all these things. You are not able to pay or to have money to pay the rent of a huge home where you've been living. So the risk of disruption of the quality of life does arise immediately. So you save to avoid those disruptions of living standards in retirement. And also make opportunities and arrangements in retirement fair, so that it's much fair for you. Of course, retirement saving is a source of lump sum capital, which you may need when you are thinking about starting a business, which you want to run with into retirement years. So earlier on, I spoke about our life expectancy after retirement. So the question we may ask yourself as you plan, how many years am I likely to live when I retire? I don't know whether Mabaya will know how many years you will live after you have retired. It's very difficult. But of course, actuaries, statistics show the average, and that is often what we use to plan. Because the answer to that question will also involve how much money you need to live for those years. A plan for an average of 20 years will be reasonable in Kenya status currently, because you may never again be so sure how long the Lord will allow you to live. Of course, current life expectancy at birth is 66.7 years. And how will you sustain your cost of living for the average 20 years thereafter? That is the basis upon which you will start planning financially. What will be your medical condition? That's another factor. Of course, we do know that as we age, our bodies start giving in with some of these complicated conditions, and they require money. So you also need to think through what will be my medical care in my retirement. Secondly, thirdly, how will you spend your time? What will you be doing during all that much time that you have? You also need to think through. Last time when we spoke, we said you need to be a volunteer. You need to start doing things for society if you cannot run a business. So you cannot just afford to be idle. So, and how will you relate with your spouse and children after you have retired? We have stories which we have seen and experienced. Some people have paid attention to some research where women who work and are busy making money for the family for 30 years, we spend all much of our life in the office and not so much time at home. So mama has been patient enough for that period until when you come back home and you sit here and you start commanding her around, disrupting her life also, because that's not the life she has been used to. You being around here and demanding everything from morning to evening, because she had also designed her life in a manner that you are not there. So this is my life as your spouse. So when you do that disruption, she gets fed up and says, now I need to travel to America to and see my children and grandchildren. So we have had those cases, and the men who have been left back here and mamas have left to go and see the grandchildren, but it was in the context of not knowing what to do with this man who is now permanently here at home and making so much demands, which is also a disruption to your spouse at retirement. So we also need to start thinking through how do we relate with our family members as an aspect of retirement planning. So this is just a graph to show us how life looks like. Let me just put all of it. You will notice this is a lifeline. When we are children, and our parents take care of us and provide for us. This is the first part of it. We, in terms of income, financial income, we are in the negative as children. But fortunately, our parents are there. They provide for us. They buy clothes, give us housing and food and everything else that we need, education, and you have no problem as a child. But of course, a time comes when you start working, that's the red part, and you start accumulating money for yourself through salary or a business that you're running, and you accumulate money over a period of time, the whole of that red part, until a point when you retire, that's straight line, because that is the stop of either salary or you have closed your business. So what is likely to happen is, if you did not have a saving, everything else stops at that point. Again, just like when you were a child, you experience a shortfall. But the question is now, who will pay for this shortfall at that time? When you were a child, the parents did it. You are now an old person, your parents probably are not there, or probably they have nothing. Who will pay for your financial shortfall? So this is basically a picture of how you should see life playing out, and informing us why we should be able to plan for retirement. So it's on that basis then we need to do what we call financial assessment, asking this question: how much do I need? I need money for housing, for food, for clothing, for paying taxes, of course, an obligation of every citizen. You need some level of insurance, you need healthcare, and many other things that you may wish to put on that left side of that picture. And they need to balance with what you have. How much do I have? Do you have savings? Do you have investments? Do you have pensions? Is there government social security which will support you? Are there any other entitlements that you may claim on? Do you have rental income? Do you have paid work in retirement, either consultancy or something else that you have started doing to support you in retirement? So your needs and how much you have should be able to balance. Otherwise, we should be in a problem. Of course, if you have more on the right side, that's okay. Then you can be having a surplus in retirement. It's not often the case in the majority of the people. Usually the problem is people don't have much on the right-hand side. How much do I have? Usually it's a deficit. And how much do I need? Usually a lot, and you don't know how to finance all of them. So how much do I need and how much do I have is a critical question. When there's a gap, that's a gap that you need to start filling. You keep working so that you can be able to fill that gap, that financial gap. Where will you work? What will you do? You move to a cheaper home so that you can be able to reduce your cost of living in retirement. You migrate up country so that you reduce your cost of living in retirement. There's also the social cost, which will immediately arise. And how do you spend less so that you can be able to fill that financial gap? Those are some of the questions that young people need to start thinking through. Even us now who are in retirement, they need to start thinking, do I need to cut down my costs substantially for me to be able to provide for the things I need with what I have? So some of the sources of our income, financial income, that we may think through. Of course, in Kenya here, we have what we call retirement benefit schemes, NSSF. It does give you some little amount of money because the savings are also small, but it's one of the sources of income where you have been putting money for your 25, 30 years. When people retire, they always go to the NSF offices to get their money. Then we have occupational schemes in the private sector, in parastatals, in government. Occupational schemes are those schemes which have been set up by employers for their workers. The government has a civil service pension scheme, private companies have their pension schemes, and parastatals have their pension schemes. Those are occupational schemes. Then we have individual schemes, so retirement benefit schemes, where individuals who are self-employed have been putting money over the years as a way of planning for their retirement. And when that time comes is when they go for it. And these are provided by a few financial institutions in this country. So for young people who are in the house, I will encourage you to start saving now. If you haven't started saving, and just do it deliberately with a plan. And be consistent over the years as you do so. Now, there are also non-retirement benefit sources. Some people have invested in real property, houses, they have farms, they have land. Some people invest in financial assets, call it deposits in banks, bonds, unit trust, insurance. I mean, all manner of financial savings that are available in our capital markets. Some people are running businesses even when they're working, and they continue with those businesses into retirement, what you may call ongoing businesses. Some people engage in what you call commercial farming, poultry, dairy, whichever it is that you want to do, and they make it a business, which gives them some amount of money which they need in their retirement. Is there any one of you who expects some money from some grandchildren abroad? Maybe remittances from grandchildren, if there are any who think about you from out there. That could be a source of income, but I can tell you it's not much. So retirement benefits constitute the most important component of retirement resources for most people in this country and many other parts of the world. However, in this country, only 22% of working Kenyans are covered under retirement benefit schemes. So where are the 78%? Are they in non-retirement benefit sources? Do they have real estate? Have they invested in financial assets? Are they running businesses? Are they doing farming? Do they hope to get money from grandchildren abroad or children abroad? So what that tells you is that about 78% of people who are working currently in this country, a number of them don't have pension plans, and probably they don't have any source of income under the non-retirement benefit resources. What that means is that most of them will retire poor and extremely get into a very challenged life in retirement. So the factors which determine retirement resources, which could be adequate for you in retirement, could be how much are you contributing towards your retirement saving. Some people contribute little amount of money, which without plan, without thinking whether it's going to be enough in retirement. Some people are deliberate. They continue increasing their contributions because they know that they need that money in retirement. So the amount of contributions is critical to determine the amount of retirement resources. Most of these pension funds, the employer and the employee contribute, and therefore you have an option to increase your contributions into a retirement scheme if the employer doesn't. So that is a deliberate choice and plan which each person may wish to have for retirement planning. There's also what we call pensionable income. That is, if you are in a scheme which we call a defined benefit scheme, the DB scheme, which are very few now in this market. Most of them are closing down. But if you are in one of those before most of them expire from this market, what will determine your benefit is the pensionable income, basically your salary when you are retiring, like in the civil service pension fund. If you retire at a higher salary, you are likely to have a higher pension. But those are very few cases that we have in this market. Secondly is where your money is being invested. What is the investment return, because you are contributing for 20, 25, 30 years, and assuming that the people are investing your money are doing it prudently to give you a good return, the accumulation effect over the years, and that depends on market conditions and the people who are running your savings. That will also determine how much money you'll get at retirement. And how many years are you saving? That's also critical. So young people, if you start saving at 20, it's more comfortable because you'll not be required to save so much money. You'll be saving adequate amount of money for a longer period of time. Rather than start saving when you are 45, you have to save a lot of money in a short period of time. So years of saving is critical. So the opportunity to save more is there when you are saving for a longer period of time. And of course, the management of the retirement benefit scheme, because of the RBA, which is the regulator, they try to manage the cost of doing so that a lot of your money doesn't go into the cost of managing those schemes, and much of the money is left for you to be invested for retirement purposes. There's something we call pension indexation. That is, some of you who are already receiving a pension, how does it increase? If you retired 5, 10 years ago and you started getting a pension of 20,000 shillings every month, whichever it is, does it remain 20,000 every month, or it does increase over a period of time, either yearly or after every 2 years? So if you don't have a pension indexation, what is likely to happen is that your 20,000 shillings will be diminishing in value over a long period of time, and it doesn't become useful to the pensioner. So in Kenya here, the Civil Service Pension Scheme does have pension indexation after every 2 years. They increase it after every 2 years. Some private schemes, which are especially defined benefit schemes where there's a pension guarantee, there's some requirement under the law for the actuary to recommend a pension increase after some time, especially after 3 years. If you are buying an annuity using your pension money, then the insurance company, you may have to agree with them whether you want an annuity which grows with inflation or which is static. That's your choice you make, because insurance companies have various options of the type of annuities which you can buy. Another thing which will determine your retirement results is non-retirement based resources. Basically, the size of your investment currently. How much have you invested or put aside as an investment? And how profitable is that investment? What are the market conditions around the business that you are engaged in? If you are doing dairy farming, how is the market like? Does it swing up and down? Do you make money, or you are incurring losses all the time? That market conditions will always affect your returns in whichever business that you are engaged in. Another thing is your entrepreneurial skills, whether you are a good business person to run a business and make money. If you don't have those enterprise skills, then it becomes difficult to turn your investment into a good source of income in retirement. And whether you are looking at various opportunities to widen your business, depending on how good you are in business management. So a number of misconceptions which come with retirement. Some people will say my expenses will decrease when I retire, which is false. They are not likely to decrease. Your expenses are likely to go up. And some people think that my retirement will only last 15 years. You don't know, you may go up to 110 years, 100 years. So don't plan for thinking that you are going to live for a short time after you're retired. Some people think that my pension will pay for my basic living expenses. You may discover at the time you are retiring that your pension is not enough, it's too small to be able to meet your basic living expenses. And my pension benefits will increase to keep pace with inflation, not necessarily so, because some pension schemes increases are very small, and they may not be in tandem with the rate of inflation. And my employer's health insurance plan and Medicare will cover my medical expenses. I can assure you that the moment you leave employment, the Human Resource Department will terminate your insurance cover, and therefore you have no insurance from your employer after you have retired. You have to look for your Medicare in retirement. And some people still think there's still plenty of time for me to start saving for retirement. You don't have any, especially when you have gotten close to retirement. That's why I keep going to this point, that the young people, you can only say that you have plenty of time if you start saving at 20 years when you start working. Immediately you start working, start saving. But when you're 50, you have no time. I mean, if you must save for retirement at 50, you're required to put in a colossal amount of money to enable you put some money aside for retirement. Some people think that saving this little amount will not help. And that's a lie also, because we spend too much money on things we don't know. And yet, if you put it aside, however little it is for a longer period of time, it ends up being a lot of money in retirement. Those who do financial mathematics, they can tell you that little amount saved for a long period of time, with the accumulation effect, it can end up being a good size of amount of money in retirement. So don't dismiss the little amount that you have now. As a young person, start saving it now. It may end up being a lot of money when you clock 60. So how do you manage your pensions if you have one? You are going to access your pension because you have now attained retirement age. There are these phases which are available to us. You can actually take a pension, which is a monthly pay, guaranteed for the rest of your life. You may take a single sum payment, which is basically a lump sum you take, like from NSSF. You go there and say, I've worked for 25 years. Please calculate my accumulated amount and give it to me in lump sum, a single sum payment. You get it in lump sum and go with it. Now, we said earlier you're supposed to plan for 20 years. So if you get it in lump sum now, how do you spread it for the next 20 years? That is now left to you to plan. We have also another option of what we call systematic withdrawal plan, or IDD, income drawdowns. That is where if you have saved your money in a pension fund and it is, say, just for argument's sake, is 10 million. How do you want to access it? You can actually convert it into a pension, which is item 1 there, or start withdrawing it from the scheme with an amount you choose yourself. You say, this quarter, I want to take some 100,000 shillings. I'll not come back maybe until the second quarter. So it's a program to withdrawal that you design of your own, but the law requires that you have to do that for at least for 10 years. You cannot take the whole amount before 10 years are over. And finally, you have the option of buying annuities from insurance companies. You can use your 10 million instead of withdrawing it slowly from your pension fund. You carry your 10 million, give it to some life insurance company, and choose an annuity you want. You can choose an annuity for life. You can choose an annuity with your spouse for life. You can say, I want an annuity for the next 20 years. If I die before 20 years, the balance of the period you can pay to my family. So insurance companies have various products which they call retirement annuities. You can make a choice of what you think suits you and fits you. So these are the 4 options that are available to a person retiring, and people determine what is working for them. Number 1. Number 2, depending on the rules of your pension scheme where you are. If, for example, you are in the civil service pension fund, you will be receiving a pension. You don't have any other choice. If you are at the NSSF, you'll have a lump sum, a single sum payment. You don't have a choice because the law requires that form of payment. But in these private pension funds, the options of purchase of annuities exist. or systematic withdrawal plans also do exist. So a member has some leeway of making a choice how he wants or she wants to access the retirement benefits. So if you just want to compare between a pension and a provident fund, the provident fund is where you carry your money in lump sum in all of it once, so that you want to plan on how you want to manage it yourself. A pension is where you receive this gradual monthly pay for the remainder of the guaranteed period, which is life. So in a pension, the total benefit paid out as monthly amount is basic annuity, which you get from the pension scheme where you are. And the provident fund, you carry a lump sum. You can choose to use it to buy an annuity from an insurance company. That choice remains to you. You can make that choice. In a pension fund, you're allowed to carry at least 1/3 of your total savings to enable you to start life immediately after retirement. In a provident fund, you carry everything. There's no 1/3 commutation. So pension schemes do have what they call annual increases, what I call earlier pension indexes, to help you manage inflation risk. But you don't have this in a provident fund because you had carried all the money from the pension fund. So we have what we call the categorization of retirement benefits. Lump sum payments, which are paid in cash to a person from a pension scheme. We have provident funds. We have trivial pensions. Trivial pensions is where if you save so little amount that it will not be enough to be paying to you in small portions in form of pensions, the law allows that you carry it in lump sum because it is trivial. Sometimes because people get sick also, either before retirement or in retirement when they're receiving a pension, they're allowed to carry a lump sum of the whole amount because of ill health. And when people are leaving the country to other countries with an object of not returning back to this country, they are also allowed to carry the whole amount in lump sum as they immigrate to the other countries where they want to be citizens or whatever, permanent residences. So income drawdowns, which I mentioned earlier, that is where you program how much you want to carry every month or every quarter. It must be done within a period of at least not less than 10 years. And it must be provided for in the rules of your pension scheme. The law requires that every scheme provides for it. And I think now every other scheme in this country provides for it. So that should not be a problem to most members. What you call annuities, which are offered by insurance companies, the contract which you sign is to exchange your money with an annuity. So you give your lump sum money to the insurance company, and then they give you this annuity, which is a first payment for the period you have agreed, usually life or some period. You can actually say is for 20 years. You can say it's going to be between me and my wife. Whoever who survives continues to receive it until the life of that other person. So the annuitant, which is me who is buying the annuity, is paid a set of amount, what we call an annuity, in installments over a fixed time period, or while the annuitant, the person whose life the contract depends, is still alive. So you get it during your lifetime. And sometimes, if it is a guarantee for life, it may expire upon death, even if you have received it for 3 years, for example, because the guarantee was to pay it for life. And that's why insurance companies make money. They wish that these people die earlier so that they can save some money. I think so. I think insurance companies make money when people die early, those who are bought annuities. But if you live for 110 years and you have a guarantee of being paid for life, then they continue paying even when you have lived up to 110 years. That makes losses to insurance companies. And that's the problem that life insurance companies face in the Western world. So pension investment decisions that we need to make relate to the following. you need to adjust your savings, what you call your retirement fund, as you advance or as you get near to retirement. Because if you have been saving in land, some pieces of land all over the place, that land will not be money when you retire. So you start adjusting your fund or your assets as you near retirement. Time horizon is critical here, because how long your money is invested is important. How much risk you take as you save your money is also critical, because as you take a little more risk, you make more money. As you get too conservative and you have a long period of saving, you don't make as much money. And it's also important that you diversify so that you don't lose all the money in the case of a market shock in the industry. So there's always need to review your options for how you select your investments. If you're in a pension fund and it does allow a choice of investments, it's important that you actively participate in choosing those investments which relate to you, depending on your years and your risk tolerance levels. It's also important to start in continuously increase your contributions as you continue planning for your retirement, so that you keep saving more money towards retirement. And it's important to start consolidating other retirement accounts, transfer scattered retirement savings accounts into one scheme. If you have worked in a number of employers, and in every employer you have some pension savings, it's important as you near retirement to start transferring into one account, so that you are able to plan for your savings much better. Let me conclude, brothers and sisters, that it's important that we start planning for our retirement early. So that may not be very useful to some of us who are already old, but for some of us who are still young in the house, please take note that it is important that you start planning for your retirement early. Start saving for retirement as soon as you start working. Learn to maintain a smooth consumption through life. Avoid waste and excesses. Consumption smoothing is a very critical thing in retirement planning. That is, don't change your lifestyle too rapidly just because you have gotten so much income during your employment that you want now to spend the whole of it in the name of what we call enjoying life. Manage your standard of life in a more smoother way from your active employment years to retirement years. And we call that consumption smoothing. But do not forget to plan your estate too. We spoke about it in our first presentation. During your active economic life, you have bought land all over the place, you have invested everywhere, and some of these properties may outlive you. So it's always important to start planning for that estate too, to avoid waste upon death. Because after death, there's likely to be waste if there wasn't a good estate planning. And finally, continuously evaluate your retirement plan. Let this be a conscious issue in us, that one day we shall retire. And if I retired, what would my life be like? So as you put down your investments, your planning, the things you are doing now in anticipation of retirement, keep reviewing whatever it is that you have planned, so that it becomes meaningful and useful to you when that time comes. Thank you so much for listening to me. I think we can now go into discussions. My elder, back to you.
Thank you so much, Elder Nyakundi, for taking us through this retirement planning financial. I'm sure our generation in the house would have benefited greatly if we had this information when we were young. But I like the consolation you gave that it is still not too late. We can also be able to help our young people who are coming up. Are there any questions? Can give them 2 minutes for questions. You can raise your hand or ask. Any questions? Okay, Hilda Oyeke, you can ask.
Good evening, fellow brothers and sisters. Yes, it's nice to
Hilda.
you. Yeah. Elder Nyakundi, thank you so much for this very informative talk. I think, as Elder Mabea said, some of us wish we had it much earlier, but thank God at least we are hearing it today. I was just wondering, when one is retiring and you've been on Provident Fund, which now you are selecting an insurance to manage for you, we are aware of the fact that quite a few of these insurance companies sometimes go under. And what kind of security would one have? You know, you're retiring and you've dumped all your funds with one insurance company. What happens? You know, should that insurance company go under? I'm just wondering what kind of provision is there to protect retirees from insurance companies that might go under? Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Can I take any other if there is? Okay, let me deal with this as you think through if there's any other question. That is true. That's one of the risks that come with the market where we operate and where pension funds also operate. The law is aware of that reality, that it's possible that an insurance company can go under, and all of us who are old enough are aware of Kenya National Insurance Company, which at that time was the biggest insurance company in this market, and it went under. And it had many, many pension funds with it at that time. The truth of the matter is that pension funds which are invested with the insurance company do not form part of the assets of the insurance company under the Insurance Act. So what then should happen is that in the event of collapse of an insurance company, the assets which we call superannuation funds, which are pension funds and any other long-time life funds, are always ring-fenced with the assets of the insurance company. So Insurance Regulatory Authority, in the event of a collapse, will appoint either another insurance company or any other person to manage the assets ring-fenced for superannuation funds and other long life insurance funds, which then are paid to the owners as they determine who is owned what. So, for example, the Kenya National Insurance case, even now they still pay some annuities. Even now they pay some life insurance for those people who had put their money there. The only problem, of course, which I agree with everyone, is that it becomes frustrating to wait for your money for a long period of time when you need it, especially soon after you have retired or you're about to retire. But the risk of loss is always reduced. Those people who put their money in those insurance companies, so long as they are what we call long-term funds, which are pension funds and life funds, they're always ring-fenced under the Insurance Act. So those assets, those buildings which you see in this town, you see tall buildings here owned by insurance companies. Those are assets owned by life insurance policyholders and pension funds. So in the event of that company dying, that building will belong to those members who have put their money there. So the risks are there because it will take a long time for you to be paid because there will be all these logistics, but you will eventually be paid. It's always frustrating We don't have what we call, like in other countries, there's what we call some funds like the deposit insurance for banks. We don't have it for pension sector in this country. It's something which we're debating currently under the policy which we are developing for the National Treasury to see whether we can have some deposit like fund where in the event of collapse of a pension fund, people can then be paid from that fund like we pay for banks which have collapsed. But that's still something which is in the making at the moment, not yet policy agreed on. Thank you.
Thanks, that is reassuring.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have another question? You can type it or ask. Silence means that you have been listening carefully.
They either got it or it was too complicated.
I'm sure this one, Elder, was good and all while listening. Then may I ask my Elder, Luciani, to give a vote of thanks? Since I don't see many youth in the room.
But Elder, before the vote of thanks, I realized that the presentation was being recorded. Is it possible to share this with us so that we can at least share with the youth who are not with us and who need to listen to this?
Yes, we do share. So you can just type your email.
Okay.
Type your email, then I will be able to share with you.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, over to you, Elder Luciani.
Thank you, Elder Zablon. Once again, brothers and sisters, I take this opportunity to thank our elder, Brother Nyakundi, for accepting to give us this 3-part talk. Like he said, the earlier the better, and we really had hoped that our youth would be here. Nonetheless, I'm happy to have had Dr. Oyeke with us tonight. We appreciate you for joining us today. And we have also many others every other Sunday at 8 on the same Zoom line. Elder Nyakundi, we will come back to you should we need specific talks to the youth.
Available, Elder.
Yeah, I know the youth, maybe they thought this is for their parents, but we will try to organize it through the youth department so that they can get it. Our church is in a very unique position that we are a church with only universities as our Sabbath schools and churches. So the district is composed of young people who are graduating and joining us every other time or going elsewhere. So we will come back to you and probably organize another forum where we can either bring in our graduating class in the universities, if the rest are not keen, so that they can go out with this knowledge and start a better life. I think it's part of our ministry to our young people, because for them to serve God effectively, they need to save to be able to serve God through. Thank you for encouraging us old people too. It's good to know that even after retirement, I still have the grace to live 20 years. It means I just have to adjust my savings so that it can meet that gap that now has been identified.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Elder. And I think I'm talking on behalf of all who are with us. We have really enjoyed and appreciated your accepting to be with us. May God bless you and your family too. In Jesus' name we do pray.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amen.
Allow me to pray as we close. Heavenly Father, we just want to once again say thank you. Thank you that you have not left us without information and knowledge. And this knowledge you have given to your servants in diversity. And for tonight, we are thanking you in a special way for Elder Nyakundi for taking time to educate us through this three-part series. And we pray, Lord, that even as we seek to invite him again to talk to our young people, may you create time for him and bless him even with more knowledge as things change. And even as they serve out there in advisory capacities to those engaged in this area of retirement benefits funds, may you give them wisdom and may you give them the listening ears of the government and the bodies and authorities that they advise, Lord, that in our retirement, we may continually be able to support your work, that in our retirement, we may not experience poverty, that in our retirement, we may be able to still support our health programs, that we may be able to do your work even in our retirement. May your will be done. Bless the members who have been able to attend, for we are prayed in Jesus Christ's worthy name. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you. Thank you so much for listening with me for the past 3 weeks.
Thank you. God bless you.